Many Americans do not realize that the United States government is among the largest holders of Bitcoin. Does anyone know that?
Hey guys, thank you for clicking on this video. Thank you for being here. So let's get right into it. Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. What's the background behind it? What's the point of it? What does it entail? Is it good? Is it like bullish or bearish for us hodlers? Is it good or is it bad for us as a society as a whole? We're going to talk about all these points in this video, so let's get into it. First of all, the background. The US government basically now owns around 200,000 plus Bitcoin. It didn't actually buy itself, but it's more like it seized from other parties that it deemed they were doing criminal activity. Mainly, the majority of these coins were owned by Silk Road. So Silk Road was this website that was deemed illegal, like it was a free marketplace where you can buy and sell products back in the day. And basically, for it to be completely free, people used Bitcoin on it to buy and sell stuff. And so once the US government actually took down this website, they seized all the Bitcoin that is related to it. It totaled to around 200,000 coins, a bit more. And now they're held by the US government, but they're not held as Bitcoin strategic reserves. They're just held as coins that are seized. They're just like money that was taken from criminals, so to speak. We're just going to put this point aside and go back to it later on when we talk about whether or not this Bitcoin strategic reserve is actually a good thing for society. But for now, you should know that these 200,000 coins that the government owns, it did not actually buy, but it seized through the shutdown of Silk Road. Now, the Senator Cynthia Lummis, who is a senator of Wyoming, has been an advocate for Bitcoin for quite some time, for a few years now. And she had this idea of having a Bitcoin strategic reserve for the US government and even for the state of Wyoming for quite some time. And she wanted to make it a reality. And President-elect Donald Trump, back when he was running for president, before he actually won, he said and he pledged that he will essentially create a Bitcoin strategic reserve for the US government. So he announced that back in Bitcoin Nashville in 2024. And he said that he will do that once he becomes president. So now that he got actually elected, there's talks all over social media, on YouTube and on Twitter and everywhere, that the people are actually expecting to for the government to actually do that. And we can actually see like people betting on that on Polymarket. So far the odds is more towards no, as far as I know, as by the time I'm making this video. But the odds of actually the government doing a Bitcoin strategic reserve are just going up now. So President-elect Trump will be inaugurated in January of 2025. So we will see if this will actually be the case or if they'll actually do that. But the idea behind this Bitcoin strategic reserve and the bill they're going to pass is that these 200,000 coins that we talked about earlier, they will be moved into a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And on top of that, they will have to stack 1 million Bitcoin. 1 million Bitcoin. I mean, that number is absurd. I'm not really sure if they're actually going to do that or they're actually going to buy 1 million coins. That seems almost mathematically impossible to do, but that's what the bill suggests, and they will keep doing that for the next, I'm not really sure how many years, but to reach a certain number of coins held by the US government. So what is really the point of a Bitcoin strategic reserve for the government as a whole? So a few months ago, I made a video about Michael Saylor's Bitcoin model, which is modeled around different participants, such as an individual or a corporation or an institution or a nation state. So in the nation state model, he gives the example of an indebted nation state. So if you're a nation state that you're in debt, what you should do to get out of debt and how you can do that with Bitcoin is essentially just getting more debt and buying Bitcoin with that debt and holding that Bitcoin for as long as possible until your assets in Bitcoin overcome the debt that you have. And essentially, this is how you eliminate the debt and you eliminate the deficit of your country, and you move on from being an indebted country into a non-indebted country or a wealthy nation, so to speak. As we all know, the US government is obviously an indebted government. It's a government with huge deficits. And the way even Donald Trump and Cynthia Lummis are trying to frame this idea of Bitcoin strategic reserve is that they want to use that Bitcoin strategic reserve to pay off the US federal debt. So they hold on to their coins for as long as possible, and through holding on to these coins, they can pay off the debt. As you can imagine, I am so completely skeptical of these ideas. I don't really think this is something they can actually pull off. We know how the government is. We know how things change. We know how incompetent a government could be. Even if the current administration is so competent, by some chance it's so damn competent and so damn effective, they were able to pull a Bitcoin strategic reserve and let the bill pass and actually stacks all these coins. I think the mere fact that you have a Bitcoin strategic reserve and you're sitting on so much money, the government will eventually use that for things other than just paying off the debt. They will just use it for whatever and just not hold on to it like we do as individuals. But let's see. I guess that's really just the point of a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Now, is this actually bullish or bearish for us as Bitcoiners? Obviously, if they're gonna actually stack 1 million coins, it's gonna be mathematically impossible to keep stacking 1 million coin and for us to sit at just a stable price. If that's just one huge demand for the Bitcoin market that we have never ever seen in the history of Bitcoin. So obviously, demand is going to keep going up if that actually happens. Once demand goes up, and as we all know with Bitcoin, it is limited in supply, the price will go up. Now, the problem is when you have such a big player entering the market, they can have such big effect or influence on the market. And so we need to actually kind of trust that the government, once it actually buys those million coins, it will not dump them on us again. So I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be a bill that has specific conditions and specific rules. You can't actually just sell the coins whenever you want. And it's going to be a whole complicated aspect of how to actually buy those coins, how to hold them, who will actually hold them. Are they going to be held with the US government, or are they going to be held with Coinbase or some other third-party custodian? All these things are just huge risk factors, and they could cause a lot of problems for Bitcoin market on the long run. But if we're just going to look at it from the lens of like supply and demand, that's a huge demand. But at the same time, one entity holding these millions of coins and holding them with like a third-party custodian, and the third-party custodian something can happen there. Who knows? It happened before. Then that's the risk that we're dealing with. The risk of one big entity owning so many coins and having so much influence on the market, and the entity being none less but the US government, if you know what I mean. Lastly, what's really the problem with this Bitcoin strategic reserve is that the coins that are going to be bought, they're not bought with like hard work and through achievements and through being profitable and stacking sats, so to speak. They're going to be bought through the theft of individuals like you and me. So, as we said in the beginning, we have 200,000 coins that were seized from Silk Road, right? We have 200,000 coins. And President Trump basically pledged that he will pardon Ross Ulbricht, the founder of Silk Road. So, we're assuming that we're pardoning the Silk Road founder. We should also kind of also assume that the whole idea of Silk Road shouldn't be considered a criminal thing, right? And so these coins that the government basically seized from Silk Road, in my honest opinion, and if we're going to look at it from the perspective of morality and ethics, these coins should be returned either to Ross, or the ones that Ross actually used to own, or to those that are affected by the seizure of Silk Road, and the funds be returned to them. Again, this is a fantasy. I don't think they will do that. But it's important to note that these coins are actually not for the US government. They're not ownership, the rightful ownership is not the US government. They're actually seized from people that were treated in an unjust way to a certain degree. But even more, how does the government generate income to actually buy Bitcoin? Well, it does two main things. One, taxation, which is theft. So taxation is not actually owning money through legitimate means. So that's the first way. And the second way is through deficit, which means through printing money. So the government can only get income from two ways, and those two ways are two different ways of stealing money. So the government actually, in creating this Bitcoin strategic reserve, is not doing that through proof of work, but it's doing that through proof of theft. So one of the biggest ideals in Bitcoin is proof of work. No Bitcoin can be mined without actually putting the work, actually putting the energy and power to execute a Bitcoin block. The same way, for you to actually get some Bitcoin, you have to go to work and earn some money and buy some Bitcoin, or earn Bitcoin directly. So every time you actually want to get your hands on some coins, you have to perform some type of work. You have to actually prove that you perform some type of work and be rewarded for it, whether it is mining or whether it is just doing any other economic activity. The government, on the other hand, will tax you, will inflate the monetary supply, and this is how it will achieve its Bitcoin strategic reserve. So is the Bitcoin strategic reserve bearish or bullish for us Bitcoiners? The answer is that doesn't really matter. What really matters is how this big government is getting their Bitcoin. And it's not getting it through legitimate means like you and I are doing so. So this is my message for this video. If you like it, please leave a like. If you have any thoughts, please leave in the comments. Any feedback, appreciated. Please don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter in the description of this video. And that's it for this video. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.